Hello peeps, I hope everything's alright. The game we have for you today is The Legend of the Skyfish. It's a beautiful puzzle game based around the use of a fishing pole. You have twin stick shooter movement and aiming, and all else you have to worry about is just two buttons, one being attack, the other being the use of the fishing line itself. The fishing line could be used to bring items towards you, and you towards items, which means it functions very much like a grappling hook, but the fishing rod does work much better within the game's theme, and that being the sea. You play a young girl who's been separated from her brother by the legendary Skyfish, whom your people awoke when they got greedy with their fishing and pushed out to sea so far that they awoke an ancient evil who started to turn the people into slave fish, and it's now your job to destroy all the totems and face down the large beast himself. Herself? The fish. So the puzzles revolve around switches, buttons and traps, and not only offer you a nice mix of mental puzzles to keep you going, but mixes them well together with your action ones. And on top of these to solve, you have also enemies to kill, with each stage having three types of enemy, roughly a melee, ranged and defensive. But where the easy road would have just been to reskin the enemies for the different stages, the game has taken a nice extra step by making each enemy unique enough to be its own character. So just because you see one type similar to one stage, don't expect that to be in the next stage. The other spectacular part of the game is the graphics. I'm going to say Australian tribal, but I really do not have a clue for the title of this style, so please leave a note or comment below if you do. But it's carried on in the cutscenes and through the game, making the world, enemies and obstacles all seem like they belong in the one universe. And the other clever trick is using this animation style. You could have done bare bone animations and it would have covered it up. But even with the main character's eyes showing different emotions during different actions, kudos to the developer for taking that extra time, because it takes the game from a good place to a great place. The difficulty curve of the game was spot on in my opinion, introducing not only new mechanics but new enemies, and very quickly adding them to the mix of the pre-existing dangers that existed for you, and the game keeps adding new challenges through the game at a nice steady pace. But one thing I thought the game was missing was bosses until I came across the first boss, and for the first time in the game I died, not only once but thrice. But there are only 3 bosses in the entire game, including the last boss, and they need to stand, and fuck me they did. The first boss is large, slow swing, big hitter, needing you to read attacks and respond accordingly. The second boss required moving quickly and learning attack patterns, and there's 2 phases. The last boss was a little bit of a disappointment for me, for I felt they could have added a spectacular end piece here, a culmination of all the ideas that wouldn't work through the game put into the final boss. But generally it just evolves around being able to hook yourself around quickly, which is probably easier than the second boss was. Despite being a 2D game, the weight of the hits from these bosses really did feel like they were doing big swings. And it's sort of a hard thing to maybe pull off in a 2D game, but that sense of immersion really was there, and I really did feel a sense of danger from these bosses. But I cannot recommend this game to my viewers, as it's not one I would buy for myself. The difficulty of the game is not very high, and the story is not going to change anyone's world, but the game does teach some basic game mechanics, including such things as timing runs, kiting, etc., and the puzzles, while fairly simple, did not make me bored. This is a really good game, not for the gamer, but for the child in the gamer's life. And for a newcomer coming to gaming, the lessons that you're going to learn from this game are very easily transposable into many other games. As for dying, you have regular checkpoints. Each level is not very long. You can take 4 or 5 hits between healing before you die. I died a couple of times, but only when attempting to use invincibility to cheat the game. Other than that, I died on the bosses, and no, using the invincibility to try and cheat the game didn't work. As for the total amount of gameplay, well, you have the 3 areas as I said, and within each 3 areas there's 15 levels. It took me about 3 hours to get through the game, collecting everything, and this was, I think, where the developer missed a trick, and something which the newer gamer could learn, and that's exploration. The game has secrets which gives you new armour, fishing poles and lures, but it shows on the world map which levels have them, and what is worse is when you near them, your little helper tells you every time that they're there, meaning that they're not hard to find, and could have given the game some replay value. But for the younger player, I would say £5 for 5 hours of gameplay is decent value in my book, but I can never really rate that too much because that's your own opinion. So there we have it, The Legend of Skyfish. A mobile port done right. But anyway, you go off and enjoy the world. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like to stay in touch with all the latest games as we try to cover each day a game that isn't covered by any other channel, then please hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to get in touch, we've got our TeamSpeak channel, our Twitter down in the description, as well as old-fashioned email. We're going to be doing a new thing from next week, because we're going to be doing a video a day. We're going to be giving away to one subscriber, picked completely at random, a game of the week. And all you have to do to enter in that is to subscribe. Blackmail.